Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of solving the mystery of Titanic through numbers and astrology. And the quote that I'm using in my series of videos about Titanic is millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And that quote was said by no one else than J.P. Morgan. So as you can see, some of people back in the day and right now, they do know how the universe work. They do know how the astrology and numerology work, because otherwise there would be no mystery. There will be nothing suspicious about this entire incident. So thank you very much for coming back. This is part 2 of the mystery of Titanic, and let me show you what we can see through numbers and astrology that connect everything to each other, and perhaps you can learn few extra new things that you didn't know about it before. If you didn't see my part 1 video, I strongly recommend you see it, so you will have some type of idea how the numbers work. And I'm not gonna go over again in this second part, but I strongly recommend you watch the part 1, so you will have some type of idea what I'm talking about if you have no clue what numerology or perhaps astrology is. But I believe a lot of people do know what it is and how it works. So numbers correlating with each other, and sometime by looking at the day of the year, or sometime by looking at the number of the day of the year, right? What it is, we can actually see that there is something coded within those days or those numbers, or perhaps someone's name. And all these numbers, they have connection with it within each other. And same thing with the astrology, right? We know that some planets represent specific area on our life, and they can affect our life. And for hundreds, if not thousands of years, this knowledge has been known as the hidden knowledge, because it was hidden from who? From us, regular people, right? We were not allowed to know how the universe works. We were not allowed to know what does it mean with Mercury retrograde, until in I believe last maybe 50 years, this knowledge has been really boosted, and we're finding more and more information about it. And through that correlation, through that understanding how the universe works, we can actually solve many different events that happened in the past, and see if perhaps it has some type of effect on our life today, and perhaps how everything is connected to each other. So my part 1 video, I finished with the astrology information that I gave you, and there was on the day when Titanic left Southampton, England, and I have some notes here that I'm gonna show you. So if you can see, Titanic left Southampton on April the 10th, 1912. When you add all these numbers to each other, this is what we do in numerology. You got 18, 1 plus 8 equal 9. And that was about 12 p.m. in the afternoon. And Titanic's supposed to arrive to New York on April the 17th, 1912. And that was J.P. Morgan birthday, because he was born on April 17th, right? And he would be 76 years. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to Titanic because he got some personal problems, so he never actually went on Titanic. So J.P. Morgan, his full name was John Pierpont Morgan. He was born April 17, 1837, and that is equal 31 when you want to see his life path number, 31, and that equals 4. And he died on March 31st, 1913, and that equals 12, 21, 1 plus 3, that equals 3. So if you want to find out your life path number, you just add all the digits in your birthday, and that's going to be your life path number. And he was born in Hartford, Connecticut. So pretty much everybody in the world know who J.P. Morgan was, but if you don't, he was American financier. He was investment builder who dominate corporate finances on Wall Street, and he was called Wolf on Wall Street. And pretty much from whatever we know today, he was very, very influenced guy who owned the entire finances of the United States. And well, I'm not gonna go deep into it. You can research for yourself to give you a little bit homework so you can find out more. But he pretty much owned everything at that point of time in America. So I finished my video about talking about the planets and how the planets affect our life and how the planets affect world and world events. And sometime, if you know, perhaps it's very good. I'm not an astrologer. I just know a little bit about astrology, and I use astrology in my researches and my analysis because I just want to know what's behind those numbers, what behind those days. Was there anything unusual that we're supposed to know about it? And of course there is. So if you're gonna research your own astrology chart, you will find out where your planets are and how they affect your life, right? Same thing with the day. If we have particular day in the world and we know that the Mercury is retrograding, and Mercury is responsible for communication and transportation, then you pretty much may expect that there gonna be something interrupting communication regarding transportation. There could be a delays with something could be canceled, and something could be just not going the right way like you're supposed to want it to go. So it looks to me through my analysis that people who were supposed to go on Titanic and they never made it on Titanic, they knew the planet positions in that particular period of time, and they were somehow aware of what could happen, and they just didn't make it on time to the ship because there is so many interesting information that anybody can research that for yourself. It's all available online. It's all available in many different books, that there is something not quite right about this entire incident. So the one thing that really struck me was that Titanic left only with half of the ticket sold. We don't know exactly how many tickets were sold, but we know that there were 2,224 people on the ship, including 885, I believe, people of personnel. So that leaves us about I'm sorry, I don't have that sheet in front of me, but that leaves us, let's say, about 1,300 passengers. It was probably a little less than that. I don't have that page in front of me right now. So it means that there were still 1,300 spaces available. 1,300 passengers did not go on Titanic. So that was very interesting. Imagine this huge, luxurious, spacious ship who was meant to carry 3,500 people, leave only with a little over 2,200 people, right? And the planet conjunction, if you research from that period of time, tells us on that day, on April 10th, when Titanic left, that time was all about frustration, miscommunication, delays, missed opportunity, struggling with problems solution, conflict, impulsive time, communication and travel plan disruptions, and tension and boost energy. So that day when Titanic was leaving, that was the global energy in that particular area, right? Okay then. So what else do we know from what we were told and many sources tells us, right? Look at this. So Titanic hit iceberg on April 14, 1912, around 11:40 p.m. in Northern Atlantic. Titanic sank on April 15, 1912 at 2:20 a.m. And I want to show you how we can find little extra information when we research something, right? So April 15, that was the 106th day of the year, and Titanic sank at 2:20 a.m. But when we gonna add all the digits from I'm sorry, where is my other page? Yes, I'm having here. So if we gonna add all the digits, you see, from April 14, 1912, that give us 22, and Titanic sank at 2:20, you see 22, 22. Then if, sometime when I do analysis of the global events, at first, you see bunch of numbers, same thing in your birthday, on if any other events, you just see bunch of numbers, right? But once you add those numbers, when you bring them together, there is like hidden information that is connected to each other, right? Because 4 plus 1 plus 4, that's 9. And here we have 9, and here we have 22, and here we have 22, right? 22 is master number. That's why I did not add it to each other. And if you want to know what it is, please research it, and you will find out what's master number 22 is. It's master builder number. So that's what we have been told. Titanic hit the iceberg, and half of the passengers, the ship took only half of the passengers that's supposed to go on Titanic. Many people did not make it. They canceled their plans in the last minute. And listen to this. In 1898, a novel came out, and that was 15 years earlier, before the Titanic disaster, The Wreck of the Titan, or Futility, by Morgan Robertson. That was a novel. And Morgan Andrew Robertson, American short story and novel creator, self-proclaimed inventor of the periscope, and he had interest in occultism. So this guy in 1898 wrote a novel that was called Titan. Okay? And what is this novel about? So let me tell you a little bit yet about Morgan Andrew Robertson. He was born on September the 30th, 1861 in Oswego, New York, and he died on March 24th, 1915 in Atlantic City. And Morgan was sailor himself. Later, after the Titanic sunk, he made statement that God told him about it and he wanted to warn people, and he make this book. So let's see what he wrote in his book. Okay, so let me just put my notes straight here. So I have a lot of notes. I want to get you as much information as possible so you can see for your own how many mysteries are coded into that entire event. So, in his book, Robertson wrote, in his one of the stories of Titan. This is a story about a ship, luxurious ship that was carrying 2,400 passengers and had not enough lifeboats, and it was unsinkable. And the ship in Robertson's book was sailing in April, and it was SS Titan, and it struck iceberg in the Atlantic. And what we can find the similarity between that book that Robertson wrote and the real Titanic disasters, that J.P. Morgan was the owner of White Star Line. And here we have a guy whose first name is Morgan that wrote the story about ship who sunk in Atlantic Ocean in April, and it was very luxurious ship. And in that story, there were two people who fall in love, but they were rescued. They were rescued so they didn't die in that story. And there is a little bit of differences in the length and a little bit in width of the ship, but there is a lot of similarities. So if you want to check, you can check on your own. The description of the ship was pretty similar to Titanic, and also there was mention in that book that there were not enough lifeboats in the ship. So one more thing I'm gonna bring to your attention, and this is a fact from real Titanic that I found for you, that Titanic was a huge structure, and supposedly it was much heavier than Olympic, who was built at the same time, and Titanic could hold 40 tons of potatoes, 34 tons of meat, 40,000 eggs, 3 tons butter, 2,000 salt and pepper salt and pepper shakers, 57,000 utensils, 1,000 bottles of wine, 1,000 bottles of other drinks, 1 ton of coffee, and 8,000 cigars. So, can you imagine? Can you imagine such a huge structure just going on the water? But anyway, going back to our novel that was written by Morgan Robertson. So Robertson in his book gave us many similar information to the real Titanic, and later on he made that statement that God told him that he had a vision and he had to put it in the paper, but nobody actually took serious his information that he gave to the world. So listen to this. So on Titanic, there was someone named William T. Stead. He was nominated for many Nobel Prizes for his campaigning work. He was investigating cases such as child welfare, worker rights, social justice, and he was a very controversial journalist. He was going to America to celebrate his work. Supposedly, he should receive another prize. So he was working with two newspapers, and he wrote many different contests regarding some spiritual contests too. And one of them he wrote, "This is exactly what may take place and will take place if liners are sent to sea short of boats." And he wrote this after reading Robertson's book. And unfortunately, William Stead died on Titanic. You can see there were many similarities between that book, Titan, and about the regular Titanic that sank that day. And there are many other similarities. Like in that book, the captain was called Edward Smith, and in real life, the captain of Titanic was Edward Smith, and someone else supposed to be sent instead of Edward Smith, and in the last minute they changed the captain. Someone else supposed to be captain, and they changed that person. So also it's mentioned in that book that Titan sank on the Atlantic, and Titanic sank on the Atlantic. And Morgan Robertson also wrote other articles and novels referring, one of them was referring that US and Japan will go into a war, and that was referred to Japan invaded Pearl Harbor. And he also wrote other articles that will give predictions regarding other world events.